Okay, so before I start this story, I want to give some context. I grew up in a town called Luther, Michigan, in the middle of the Manistee Forest. I'm talking small, like a population of 300 people. I lived with my grandpa at the time, and we lived in a small one-bedroom cabin he built deep in the woods. And to even get to it, you need to drive down a 2-mile two-track. So needless to say, unless you know who my grandpa is or your family, no random person is going to accidentally walk into our front yard out there. So now that I painted the picture, let me tell you the story. I must have been about 7, 8 years old or so. As I said, it was a small one-bedroom cabin, so my bedroom was actually the living room, and we had this giant window looking out to the front area of the house. During the day, you could see the driveway, the shed, my grandpa's project cars and trucks, and various farm stuff we had. But at night, pitch black, like someone put a black blanket over the entire house. My bed was positioned right up against this window, so I'd be sleeping right next to this window. As I said, it's small, so space was a premium, so I'd just curl up with my back against the window and fall asleep. I was a pretty heavy sleeper as a kid, so I'd be out the whole night. One night, after I said my prayers and got ready for bed, my grandpa tucked me into bed and sat by the fire to read his Bible. Most nights, he'd read his Bible till I fell asleep, then go back in his room and go to sleep himself. And this night was no different. He got in his chair, took out his Bible, and started to read. So I slowly fell asleep. I must have been asleep for maybe 3 or 4 hours when I woke up. My grandpa fell asleep in the chair and my back was hurting, so I turned around on my other side. So now my face was staring out the window, and I was about to just close my eyes and go back to bed when I swear I saw a silhouette of what looked like a man standing right outside the window. Keep in mind, it was already pitch black out there, so this means he would have had to be standing like inches from the glass. At first, I thought I was seeing things, so I blinked a few times, and it was still there. I remember feeling super scared, and I don't move. Maybe I thought if I didn't move, whoever it was would think I was asleep and just leave. But the shadow didn't leave, and once my eyes adjusted, I could in fact make out a man with stubble standing practically right against the glass. Again, I didn't move. The man then kneeled down where his face was at level with mine and looked right at me. I fucking started crying so bad, I was shaking, and that woke up my grandpa. When my grandpa got out of his chair, the man took off into the woods. My grandpa came over, started to rub my back, and he asked what was wrong, and I told him what I saw. Now, I had a rough childhood, and if I lied to anyone, I'd get my ass beat, so he knew I wouldn't make this up. My grandpa turned on the house lights, went into his room, and came out with a shotgun and went outside. He was out there for probably 10 minutes, but felt like hours, and he came back in and his face was spooked. My grandpa was a Green Beret in Vietnam. He doesn't scare, at all, but he looked freaked out. He came over to me and said he'll stay up with me tonight and even let me watch TV all night, which he never let me do. And the whole night, he sat facing the door of the cabin with that shotgun. The morning came, and the first thing he did was put curtains over all the windows. Then we went outside, and sure enough, there were footprints in the dirt leading out into the deep woods. After that, I wasn't allowed to play in the woods alone anymore, and my grandpa moved my bed away from the window. Now, about a week or so later, my grandpa was watching the news after dinner, and there was a story about a recently escaped prisoner that was found near Becky Trail outside Luther. The two-track that led to my cabin was Becky Trail. He was hiding out in a hunting shack about a mile from where we were. To this day, being alone in the woods at night scares the shit out of me.